You want to know how long it takes before she realizes she took you for granted? The truth is, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, like the sting of a wound she thought she'd never feel. And by the time it hits her, it's too late. But before we get there, you need to understand something brutal about the female mind. Because if you don't, you'll mistake her silence for peace, her distance for indifference, and her freedom for happiness. See, when a woman feels she can predict you, when she knows how you'll react, what you'll tolerate, and how quickly you'll forgive, she loses a subtle kind of respect for you. It doesn't mean she stops loving you right away, but love without respect always turns cold. At first, she tests you. She'll push your boundaries softly, cancel a plan last minute, ignore a text, or flirt with attention that's not yours. And when you let it slide, she files that reaction away. You just taught her what she can get away with. Women don't fall out of love in one moment. They fade. And they fade when your silence becomes predictable, when your attention becomes guaranteed. She starts assuming you'll always be there, even if she gives you less and less. That's when she begins to take you for granted. But here's the twist she never expects. One day, you stop chasing. You stop explaining, stop convincing, stop trying to be understood. You withdraw, not to punish her, but because you finally understand your worth. And that silence, that change in your energy, that's what starts the timeline. In the beginning, she doesn't panic. She thinks it's just a phase. She believes you'll come back, like you always did. But something feels different this time. You don't reach out. You don't ask how she's doing. You're not posting anything emotional, not trying to show her what she's missing. You've gone quiet in a way that feels final. That's when it starts to eat at her. She checks your social media more than she'd ever admit. She replays old moments in her head, the way you used to look at her, the way your voice sounded when you cared. And somewhere deep down, she starts to question if she made a mistake. But here's what most men don't know. Women rarely realize they took you for granted until your absence becomes permanent, until they feel what life is like without the energy that once centered them, until they compare every new guy to you and no one measures up. At first, she'll convince herself she's happier. Then she'll start to notice things she didn't see before. The late-night silence doesn't feel peaceful anymore. It feels hollow. The attention from other men doesn't feel exciting. It feels empty. And that's when it hits her. She thought she had time. She thought she could always come back. But by then, you've evolved. You're not angry anymore. You're not waiting for closure. You're building, improving, becoming someone new. And that version of you, the one who stopped chasing what didn't value him, is the version she'll never forget. She'll scroll past your picture one night and feel that ache in her stomach, that whisper that says, "I lost him." Not because you were perfect, but because you were rare. And by the time she realizes it, you'll be too far gone. The first phase after she loses you is denial. She tells herself she's fine. She'll say things like, "I needed space," or "It was for the best." Her friends will cheer her on, tell her she did the right thing, that she deserves better. And for a while, she believes them. She'll post pictures looking unbothered, share quotes about healing and independence. But deep down, she's trying to convince herself that losing you doesn't hurt. Denial is a powerful drug. It lets her pretend she's in control, even when she's not. She thinks if she looks happy enough, she'll eventually feel it. But emotions don't disappear just because you hide them. They linger, waiting for silence to make them louder. Then comes phase 2, irritation. It starts when you don't reach out, when your name doesn't pop up in her phone the way it used to. She'll check your profile and see that you're living without her. Maybe you're in the gym more. Maybe you're surrounded by new energy. And that stings more than she expected. At first, she tells herself it's pride. She just doesn't like being ignored. But it's more than that. It's confusion. Because for the first time, you're not reacting. You're not explaining yourself. You're not chasing validation. You're silent. And your silence speaks a language she can't control. This is when the anxiety begins. She'll start to remember the small details she used to overlook. Your steadiness, your patience, your loyalty. Things that once felt boring now feel safe. And she'll start to realize how rare those traits actually were. But pride is a dangerous thing. She won't admit she misses you, not yet. She'll try to test your attention, maybe by posting something provocative or suddenly showing interest again. But when you don't bite, when you stay calm and collected, that's when the fear sets in. And that's phase 3, fear. Fear that she lost something real. Fear that she underestimated your strength. Because now she's not just missing your presence, she's feeling the absence of your emotional energy. And energy is what women connect to most deeply. When that energy is gone, when the emotional support, admiration, and attention stop flowing her way, she begins to crave it. And the more she tries to replace it, the emptier she feels. Because every man she meets afterward reminds her of what you had and what she destroyed by taking it for granted. This is when memories start haunting her. It's 2 a.m., and she's replaying the sound of your laugh. It's driving home from work, hearing a song that reminds her of your car. It's seeing someone wearing the cologne you used to wear, and suddenly she's fighting back tears in public. That's when the denial fades and the reality sets in. She didn't just lose a boyfriend. She lost her emotional anchor. The man who was steady when she was chaotic. The one who listened when no one else cared to understand. And that's when the regret begins to eat away at her. Regret for not appreciating your effort. Regret for every time she rolled her eyes at your consistency. Regret for confusing peace with boredom and loyalty with weakness. Because now she realizes something she never saw before. That your calm wasn't passivity. It was power. The kind of power that doesn't need to shout to be felt. And the more you stay silent, the louder her thoughts become. That's when she starts wondering if she was ever truly ready for a man like you. Because once she's seen the difference between a boy who entertains her and a man who grounds her, she can't unsee it. And that realization, that's only the beginning of her breakdown. There comes a point when her pride can't protect her anymore. It happens quietly, like a breaking point disguised as an ordinary night. Maybe she's scrolling through her phone, half distracted, when she stumbles upon an old picture of you two. The smile she sees on her face doesn't match the one she wears now. It's softer, safer, genuine. And in that moment, the walls she built begin to crumble. She starts to wonder, when did things change? When did she start talking to you like you were replaceable? When did she start believing your love was guaranteed? Those thoughts keep her up at night, because deep down, she knows she was the one who stopped trying first. She remembers the small moments, the nights you stayed up talking, the way you always made sure she felt heard. At the time, she took it for granted. She assumed it would always be there. But now she realizes it wasn't just love you gave her. It was peace. And that kind of peace doesn't come often. As the weeks turn to months, her emotions shift from confusion to longing. She'll start to miss you, but she won't know how to reach out. Because the last time she saw you, you didn't look angry. You looked free. And that's what haunts her most. You're not bitter. You're not broken. You're just gone. And that piece of yours, it's the biggest reminder that she no longer matters in your world. So she starts creating excuses to reconnect. A random message, a friendly comment, a "how have you been" text at midnight. But when you respond with calm indifference, or don't respond at all, she feels it like a knife to the chest. Because now she knows she's chasing a man who stopped needing her validation. You see, the female mind is built to crave emotional certainty. But when that certainty turns into absence, her subconscious goes into withdrawal. She starts overanalyzing everything. Your tone, your last message, the way your silence feels colder than words ever could. And every unanswered thought becomes a punishment she created for herself. She'll talk to her friends about it, but they won't understand. They'll say, just move on. But how do you move on from someone who didn't just love you but saw you, who looked at your chaos and didn't flinch, who stayed when you didn't deserve it and left only when you forced him to? That's when the guilt hits her full force, because she realizes something she never wanted to admit. You didn't change, she did. You gave consistency, she gave conditions. You offered depth, she chased distractions. And now, in her loneliness, she sees the truth. She never lost you because you were weak. She lost you because you finally got strong. The irony is cruel. When she had your love, she felt trapped by your consistency. Now that she's alone, she sees it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Every new man she meets feels temporary because they all remind her of what you never made her question, your loyalty. But that's the price of taking a good man for granted, because by the time she realizes his worth, he's already rebuilt himself into someone she can't reach anymore. And the more she watches you grow, the more she regrets being the reason you had to. Now she's stuck in a loop, wondering if there's still a way back. But deep down, she knows that version of you, the one she thought would wait forever, doesn't exist anymore. You've evolved, you've hardened, you've learned. And now she's left chasing a ghost of a man who's already found peace without her. There's a certain kind of silence that changes everything, not the silence of anger or pride, but the silence that comes after realization, when she finally sees herself from the outside, the way she spoke, the way she dismissed, the way she thought your patience would last forever. That's when it hits her. She didn't just lose a man, she lost the version of herself that was safe in your presence. The human mind has a strange way of teaching lessons. It doesn't warn you when you're about to lose something irreplaceable. It waits until it's gone, then floods you with memories. Now she's replaying moments she thought meant nothing at the time. The way you opened the door for her. The way you defended her even when she was wrong. The way you stayed calm when she picked fights just to feel powerful. Those moments were her proof of security. And she destroyed them one by one. When the emotional fog clears, she starts to see things differently. All the things she used to label as boring now feel like stability. All the moments she called routine now look like consistency. She realizes that the man she thought was too calm was actually strong enough to never beg for control. And that realization burns. Because deep down, she always admired that part of you. Your quiet confidence, your refusal to be shaken by emotion. But at the time, she mistook it for lack of passion. She thought chaos was proof of love, that intensity meant depth. Now she sees that what she called fire was just immaturity, and what she called predictable was actually peace. That's the cruel part of growth. It always comes when the other person is gone. She'll see your face in crowds, hear your laugh in strangers, and feel that ache in her chest that never quite fades. Because now she knows the truth. You were never replaceable. You were the rare kind of man who understood that love without respect is slavery, and attention without appreciation is poison. She'll try to date again, thinking maybe she just needs someone new. But every time she does, she finds herself comparing them to you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real. And that's the one thing the world keeps failing to give her now: realness. Every new connection feels surface level, rushed, hollow. No one listens the way you did. No one calms her storms. No one looks at her like she's worth fighting for. That's when she finally understands something brutal. You didn't leave her life. She left yours, and she did it not out of strength, but out of blindness. She couldn't see your worth when it was in front of her, because she hadn't yet learned to see her own. But now, the lesson is carved into her memory. Every night she scrolls past your name, fighting the urge to reach out. Every morning she wonders what it would feel like to be held by you again, not physically, but emotionally, in that space where she once felt untouchable. And every time she stops herself, she whispers the truth she can't admit out loud. I lost the only man who ever saw me clearly. She'll never tell you that. She'll pretend she's fine, that she's moved on. But in her quiet moments, when no one's watching, she still searches for your energy in a world that doesn't have it. And the cruelest part? She'll never find it again. Because what she took for granted wasn't a moment. It was a man who had already become her peace. By the time the full realization hits her, the world looks different. The same streets she once walked with pride now feel cold. The same songs that once made her feel free now sound like echoes of what she destroyed. And every time she hears your name, it's not pain she feels, it's emptiness. Because she finally understands the difference between losing attention and losing presence. Attention fades, presence lingers. Your energy once filled her space without her even noticing it. Now every part of her life feels slightly off balance, like something important is missing, and that's because it is. You were never just a man she dated. You were a mirror that reflected back her potential, her softness, her ability to be grounded in something real. And when she took that for granted, she didn't just lose you, she lost the version of herself that existed when you were near. By now, you're somewhere else in life. You're focused, calmer, stronger. You don't check her page anymore. You don't replay old messages. Because closure didn't come from her apology. It came from your evolution. You realize that not everyone who loves you is meant to keep you. And sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is walking away quietly, without warning, without hate. That's the version of you she'll remember forever. The man who didn't beg. The man who didn't explain. The man who let his absence say everything his words never needed to. Months later, when she sees you again, maybe by accident, maybe online, she'll freeze for a moment. You'll look different, not in appearance, but in energy. You'll have that quiet glow of a man who outgrew his pain. That's when she'll know the final truth. She can't reach you anymore. Not because you blocked her, not because you hate her, but because you've healed. She'll want to say something, to fix it, to apologize, to reopen the door. But she won't, because she'll feel what every woman eventually feels when she realizes she's lost a man who truly valued her: shame. Not the kind that comes from guilt, but the kind that comes from clarity. The clarity that says, he was right about me, and I didn't see it until he left. And that's the final stage. Acceptance. She'll carry that memory for years, not as heartbreak, but as a lesson. A reminder of what happens when you mistake consistency for weakness or kindness for naivety. A reminder that even the strongest men eventually stop giving chances when they realize their peace matters more than being understood. And as for you, you'll be at peace too. You'll stop trying to prove your worth to people who only saw it once you were gone. You'll realize that walking away wasn't loss, it was protection. You didn't lose her, you found yourself, and in doing so, you became the kind of man she'll never stop remembering. So the next time you wonder how long it takes for her to realize she took you for granted, understand this: it takes exactly as long as it takes for you to move on. Because the moment you do, her timeline begins, and she'll spend the rest of her life trying to find the peace she once felt when she was yours. But she never will, because once a man finds his strength, his silence becomes sacred, and no woman who disrespected it ever gets to hear it again. Question for you. When she finally realized your silence wasn't anger, but strength, did you still want her back, or did you just smile, knowing she finally saw what she lost? Drop your answer in the comments. If this message hit deep, like the video. Subscribe for more truth about female psychology and the modern man's power. Share this with a friend who needs to hear it tonight, because peace always begins the moment you stop chasing what no longer values you.